So, welcome everyone to Cate's Hour of Miracles and Blessings. And I'll do a quick blessing. Just got to get my microphone. I'm trying to use the new microphone. I think it's got a little bit better reception. But for some reason I can't hear through the earphones. So it's sort of trying to hear through the computer and speak through the microphone. Anyway, it's all good. So just a blessing to you, which is just that I love you and I bless you and I honour you and thank you. So that blessing started to come through me a couple of years ago as I was asked by the Holy Spirit to bless everyone. So I started to just say, I bless you. And then I was asked to tell everyone that I loved them. And so I was doing that. I went through about a year, about 12 months of telling everyone on Facebook that I loved them, no matter who they were or what they had written, and however that expressed anything to me, that just the expression back to them was I love them. And I was even guided by the Holy Spirit to say it to everyone I met during the day in all the shops, to undo all the resistance to saying I love you to everyone. And I went Christmas shopping one year a few years ago, and every person I met and every shop attendant, when they spoke to me or anyone that I was interacting with, I said, I love you. So I went to get gas at a gas station and just had to say, I love you. So it was really, for me, to see if I somehow was easier for me to say I love you on the Facebook posts than actually to someone at a gas station. But I followed my guidance, and it was really to help me undo this resistance to the mind that was saying, oh, you'll make a fool of yourself, they'll start laughing at you, they'll think you're the crazy lady. But it had its purpose. We have to see where we're holding any resistance to love, where we're making a hierarchy of illusions that one body or what seemingly other is different to another other, because there is no other. We're one, and that one is whatever is outside of me, I'm one with. So I'm believing that I'm separate from it. So how do we get back to being one with it? Well, we'll join with the Holy Spirit and we'll be given exactly what to do. And each mind has their own mind training program, but this was a wonderful thing. And then the honouring came in at a bit later stage. I was just guided. I was reading something in the course where it said something about honouring your brother. And once I put that on the end of the blessing, I love you, I bless you, and I honour you, as soon as I said those words, it really came like there was a really, like a complete blessing coming through. And the blessing is for me. It's for allowing that honouring to come through of all my brothers. And it's that word seemed to release in me, in my mind, something. We've got to see, we've all got these very subtle ego resistance to love, and I don't know where they are in my mind. I have to let the Holy Spirit undo them for me and show me where they are. Sometimes I can definitely, on the journey to awakening, there was a lot of undoing. But at the moment, I'm really pleased to say that the love is just so part of my experience that it's just fully embodied. There's no resistance, or very, very little at times. But as I say to everyone, this journey is infinite. There's no landing place on this journey. It's back to God. While we're here in a body, or seem to be in a body, we're going to be undoing constantly. Just a moment. So today I'm going to be speaking about pure non-duality. And I'm going to be reading from Gary Renard's book, Disappearance of the Universe. But to start with, I'd like to start with a prayer. And it's from lesson 339. And the later lessons of A Course in Miracles have some of the lesson is in italics, and that's our prayer. And a lot of them start off with Father. And if you can undo the idea of masculine and female, of feminine and masculine as being anything opposite, and that they are one, they can seem. So our minds have to completely undo the meaning of father and mother, of male and female. We really have to undo every single belief, concept, connotation, anything our mind can hold that they're different. Because once we've got an idea that those two words mean something else, mean something different, we'll still be holding some hierarchy of illusion, some idea that there's, that one's better than another. I hear a lot of course students going into the feminine, the sacred feminine. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but really, that can be part of your journey, is to acknowledge that could be where Spirit's taking you, to see your sacredness if you're a female. But be wary not to stay in that place. We have to move on. We have to undo any ideas that one is better than another, or one is. So we're coming to inequality. So if there's this idea that, well, it's really for us, our own minds. We have to look. This is our journey. It's our own self journey. It's our inner journey for ourselves, and we're the only ones that can search our minds to see if we hold any idea about this as a female or as a male, if we hold any ideas of being more important, better, stronger, or whatever, any idea that you can have about males and females. But I know on our journey we're sometimes taken into things. The Holy Spirit knows where we need healing in certain area, and then it might heal it. You might need to go to something and read something about the sacred female. But really we need to actually obliterate that there is even female and male. And I think there's one of in the Gospel of Thomas that he talks about when the male and female have merged. So when we read these prayers and there's the word Father, it might mean Father, but it's just a reverence name for God. You could put Mother there, but the problem is if you're substituting it for Mother, it doesn't matter really if it helps you to put Mother there, but really we're trying to undo. So Father really is one, or if you're reading Mother, it's one. As long as in our minds, we're coming to this idea that God is oneness. It's one. There's no second. There's no other. Everything is one. It's all one, not in form, but in truth. So we just have to notice where we're trying to make something different. So Father here is it's just a calling out for God. And I did a talk on calling for God. I was guided to do that because it is part of our journey. We start to undo, we start to recognise in all the early lessons around, we start to recognise that, you know, our thoughts we're making images, and we really get all these early lessons. We see where we're attacking ourselves with our own thoughts. You know, those attack thoughts have to have the basis that we think we're vulnerable, so they're attacking our invulnerability. We have to really embody all these really good early lessons that help us really on our journey to see that we're doing it to ourselves. And then we come to the last, 60 lessons maybe, and then we're just calling to God. We're just joining with God in all these lessons, all these beautiful prayers. And so most of my groups, I'm always reading from these prayers because they should take your mind directly to God. They should give you this experience of joining with God, and that's where we want to be. We've undone by this stage. We've seen through, we've realised what the ego is. We realise it's our fear thoughts. We've worked with the Holy Spirit to undo them and see them as false. We're coming to see that everyone is the pure, innocent love of God. No matter what the ego mind says, we're disregarding what the ego says. It's rubbish. We're laughing at it because how could it? We literally have to laugh at the ego. And we have to embody God's mind more and more. We have to have this really strong commitment and willingness to go there and just walk this path, just bit by bit. And then this calling out for this father or mother, it doesn't matter. It's just let's call out to God, which is neither mother or father, but just calling out and just saying, I want you in me. I want you in my mind. I want you to embody. I'm joining you. I'm willing. It's like inviting God, inviting him to be. He's going to rush in as we call to him. But we have to call. When you call someone to invite them around to your house, you have to call them. They might drop in, but you may not be home. So this is the same with God. We have to invite him in. We have to say, God, I want you and nothing else. I want your love. Please come into my mind and be in my life. I want nothing but you. I want the peace of God, which when we invite God in, his peace, his love, his joy, that's all he is, or she. So it's literally, this is our desire for God to come in. We're calling for God. So this is a lovely prayer. This is lesson 339. And maybe if you just like to close your eyes and listen to this. Father, this is your day. It is a day in which I would do nothing by myself, but hear your voice in everything I do, requesting only what you offer me, accepting only thoughts you share with me. That's beautiful. So that sets the intention. We're asking, we're saying that it's your day, God. Come into me. I'll do nothing by myself. So if you were inviting a friend around your house and saying, let's do things together, you would say, I want to do nothing by myself today. So you would invite that friend around and you would do things with them. So this is what we're asking God to do. Come into our minds and do things with me. I'll do nothing on my own. But this takes a bit of mind training because you have to be really, at the start, it's the most natural. At the start, you have to invite God or the Holy Spirit in. Well, the Holy Spirit is God's Spirit. It's not separate to God. But you will get to a stage where it's very natural to live and move in God. You will do nothing but have God as your base, as your mind. It'll speak to you, it'll tell you what to do, it'll guide you in every single choice. You'll just embody the mind of God. So at the moment, if we're in our ego, we're in the mind of the ego. It's a split mind. So let's move into God's mind. And you don't have to wait a long time to do this. You know, we can choose this today. We can choose to be helped by the Holy Spirit and be willing. So let's make a choice. What have you got to lose by choosing God? You know, there's some fear will probably come up. The ego might have a few stories. Don't overlook those stories. If the ego comes in and tells a few stories about sacrifice or loss from choosing God, don't rush past those and just look at them. It's very important to look at everything the ego says you're going to lose if you give everything to God, or you live in God and you have God, the Holy Spirit, choose for you. Look at it. If it says, oh, you're going to lose all your money, well, have a look around at all the awakened minds that live in God and see what they're expressing, how they're living. And they don't emanate any sacrifice or lack. So really embody this, that there's no sacrifice or lack in living in God's mind, coming from God, having God make every decision for us. So let's really be committed. Let's be 100% committed. Let's just say that's it. I'm done with, I was given the other day, I was talking to a friend, most of my students are fully committed in. And it's like sometimes, you know, the cartoon characters where they can stretch their body. I'm thinking of, I think it's the Coyote and the Roadrunner and the Coyote cartoons. If you can imagine him with his big nose. And if you've got a line somewhere, a line in the sand, and it's like he's standing here, but his body is really stretched out, and say the line is, 100 feet away. His body stretched out and his toe, his big toe with his nail on it, is holding on to that line. He's got his big toe holding on that line, and it's like all the coyote has moved over into God's mind, but he's just got a big toe and a nail touching the ground behind the line. And that's the ego, that's us saying, I can't actually give everything to God. We want to, but we have this big toe stretched right out in our mind somewhere, and it's got this tiny little nail. The tiny tip of the nail is behind the line, which is the ego. And we have to lift that nail up, you know, and it's a cartoon character because this is how the Holy Spirit sometimes shows me analogies. But they're fun, you know, because they're this stretching out, oh, look at me, I'm 100 yards or I'm 100 feet from the ego. Like I'm really in God's mind and I'm really doing this. But, you know, the body is stretched, you know, it's like, it's like the camera pans along the coyote and then there's the little toe, you know, and he's got these big, you know, how cartoon characters have these big feet. He's just got one big toenail. And that's what we're like. We want to hold something in the ego. We want to hold something in our own, it's really our own decisions making, our own control. I'll just hold this, maybe it's something to do with a relationship. There'll be some part of our minds that holds this one thing that we won't give up to God for direction. So yeah, that little toe has to be anchored out of the sand, the hole, and then it's like the coyote in the cartoon would spring back and he'd be standing there 100 feet from the line in God's mind. And I'm guessing he's going to have a big smile on his face. So that's what we need to look at. We need to, where am I holding that little toenail as I can't give that to God. I can't give that to the Holy Spirit. That's where, that's your journey. That's each individual mind has to go in and find. Some it's finances, some it's relationships, some whatever. And there's no hierarchy of illusions about what it is, because it's all really just this idea that I can do something, that I've got a separate will and I can't trust God to look after me. I can't trust the Holy Spirit guidance. Literally, you're saying by holding that little nail there, this big toenail, just a tiny, tiny aspect of your mind, you're still holding in the ego's mind of this control. That's literally what we're saying to ourselves, that I can't trust God completely. And we need to surrender, he says in the Course. We have to come with open hands, bring nothing from the past, bring nothing. Forget this course, forget this world, forget everything you've ever learnt, forget everything. So we will be coming to God with empty hands, open, empty hands, bring nothing with you. That's how we have to come to God eventually. And the quicker you can do that, the quicker you will awaken to the love. We have to do this. It is part of the journey. We have to surrender everything to God. And it's just, I used to lie on my bed, open my body, you know, like open my hands, my arms, my feet, just really like spread eagle. And I would just say, I surrender to you, God. I'd give you everything. And I was sort of like giving him my body. It was like my body was being given. And sometimes when I was doing all the surrendering a few years ago, I lived on a riverbank. My house was on a river, and I used to go for lots of walks on the riverbank. And I'd lie on the riverbank out in the open in the grass and just, you know, arms wide open, hands wide open, like really, really open, because this this openness, this physically opening out your body and just calling to God, just take me, I love you, take everything of me. It's not a dying thing. It is a dying of the ego self, but it's more a giving. I give myself to you, God. I give it all to you. I want none of this mind that keeps me suffering. I don't want this mind of suffering anymore. Don't want one tiny little scrap. And I'm just like, I just want to be free of all this worry about money, about jobs, about children, family. I just had, you know, I was just in this worry, this mind that worried so much. And a few people that came to visit me, I used to do this. I'd say, come on, let's get out on the riverbank and surrender. And it was interesting how willing I was to do it and how they really couldn't. They just said, oh, you know, this is just, you know, I just can't. You know, they were sort of going along with me, but they weren't ready. And that's what I saw. I saw this, you know, this little bit of resistance to what I was asking them to do. And then I thought, well, each mind will come to it. And just me showing them what I was doing, maybe there's going to be a day where 6 months or a year later or many years later, they remember that day they sat with me and I said, come on guys, let's spread right open and just say these words after me. God, I give myself to you. I give you everything, my voice, my body, my finances, my house, my car, my kids. I give you my friends. I give you everything. You use them however you like. And I thought, well, one day they might think of that and they might come to that themselves. But you know, it's this, have we had enough suffering yet? And I seem to have had enough by that stage. So I didn't want one tiny bit of part of me deciding anything at that stage. But I did for a long time prior to that. Couldn't give my finances to the Holy Spirit. I could give everything else. And then I was, as I've talked before, I was put into a state where I had absolutely no money. I'd gone from within months having access to some money in my property, and then I was asked by Spirit to buy a house for my son and his wife, and go and tour, and it tied up all the money in my house. I had to max out on my credit cards, and then I'd lost my job. And I couldn't get another job, and I was basically penniless. And then the Spirit said, "Now, will you trust me with your money?" And I, "Okay, did you to do that? Did you?" But no, it was good. I did it willingly. And when I got to the stage I had no money at all, the Spirit brought this beautiful lesson of how I'm going to be looked after. And I just wept. I wept because I was so scared to trust, and He brought this lesson in for me of how I'm going to be looked after. And within that month or two, I had these beautiful revelations and miracles where I joined with Jesus, and He just said, "Trust me, I'll look after you. Just trust me." And so I had some really gorgeous things as I joined with the Holy Spirit and Jesus in seeing that this is true. I will be looked after. And that was maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, and nothing's changed. I've just, even this week, someone in my life has stepped in and offered to pay for something quite big. And it's all been from guidance, so I won't say it as yet because it hasn't yet happened. But this love, you've got no idea. If once you step into God's plan and God's love, we have got no idea when we're in our ego mind how beautiful God's love is, living with it, just living. It's like living in a pool of joy and peace and divine. It's just divine. It's so infinite and so beautiful and so pure. And we have to really want that. And I feel like I'm a light for others to say, you can have this, but you have to surrender everything eventually. There's no rush, and you just do it as you want to do it. And but for me, and mostly, you have to have help with this surrendering. You have to have help. You'll be guided. You'll have the Holy Spirit and Jesus guiding you and advising you. So I'm finding now with my one-on-ones that I'm doing, the Skypes and Zooms, that they're more, and even when people come here for their one-on-one retreats, I'm finding more and more the Spirit's guiding me to join with them in prayer and joining them with Jesus, connecting with Jesus in those meditations. So that's where it seems to be going for me, and I think that's what I'm going to be offering a little bit more in the future. I feel like that's what's, don't know, I feel a bit drawn away from processes, and let's just go directly to Jesus. These processes are good, but I don't know. Anyway, this is what my guidance has been, and this is the thing, we just got to follow and and be joyful at the changes that then the Spirit's going to know. Excuse me. So let me get on to this reading from Disappearance of the Universe. And to start with, at the front of the Disappearance of the Universe is a quote from A Course in Miracles. And I feel to just read this out to start with. There are those who have reached God directly, retaining no trace of worldly limits and remembering their own identity perfectly. These might be called the teachers of teachers because, although they are no longer visible, their image can yet be called upon, and they will appear when and where it is helpful for them to do so. To those to whom such appearances would be frightening, they give their ideas. No one can call on them in vain, nor is there anyone of whom they are unaware. So notice that second last sentence, no one can call on them in vain. You see, this calling on, calling on and inviting is all through the Course. We have to invite the Holy Spirit in. We have to invite Jesus to come to us. This is what we're asked to do. So, I'm going to ask the Holy Spirit to, I've already done this. I mean, I've been up for an hour meditating prior to the talk. Meditation now is just actually really joining in complete silence with this love of God, and it's the background of my life. It's always there, but what happens is it's like when you sit in silence and you just join with God, it's like, sometimes you've got music playing in the background as you listen, as you're talking with others. But when you get quiet, you put your headphones on and you just turn the music up really loud. And you sit there and you're like, oh, this music's wonderful. And you don't have to stop and talk to anyone or get interrupted. So as you do your meditation or joining with God, you're really shutting out the whole world and turning up the music with God. So the music is in you, and it's this, the music with God is so beautiful. It's like angels are singing. There's so many musical instruments when you join with God in your mind that you'll never hear in this world. The music and the voices are incredible. And honestly, I'm starting to talk about them now, and I'm starting to tear up because it's like the closest I've ever heard of this is near-death experiences, where people, they just say they hear this music and they feel this love, this experience. We don't have to have a near-death experience to experience this love and this joining with God. And it'd be wonderful if we could record something so amazing and so beautiful, because their voices and the range of tones, and it's just the most beautiful thing. I think you probably would get to closest to that would be maybe the choirs with their beautiful, when you listen to a choir, that's like 1/1,000,000th of something, how God's tune. That's why they call it an ancient song. There's no mistake that it's a song when you're in God, with God. Someone's just on the Pal Talk, a few glimpses of pure love. It's undescribable for sure. So that's Ken. Thanks, Ken. It's really this. It is. It's this love. We open to it, and then we bask in it. It's literally takes your mind. Actually, it's Shirley. Oh, Shirl. Okay, sorry. Yeah, Shirley's on the Awakening Together Pal Talk. So thanks, Shirley. It's really beautiful, and it's lovely to touch a few people that are listening live to get their comments and feedback, because everyone knows this. We do have a few glimpses, but there is a way to live in that all the time. And Shirley's just saying, I'm filling in for Ken tonight and blessed to be here. Oh, it's wonderful to have you, Shirl. And Shirley, I think it is. I'm just trying to kind of pronounce your name right, Shirley. Shirl. Anyway, I'll say both of them, and I guess I'll get it right. But we have to, this surrendering to live in this love. It is really beautiful. And the most gorgeous thing is the more we do to surrender, to love our brother. The most important thing is to see your brother as Christ. Never ever see any completely overlook their body, completely overlook everything they say, and just purely hold them as the innocent Christ that they are. And this is the complete fast track to the love of God, because your mind is then seeing clearly. So now getting on to, I've got about 20 minutes. I'll start this and maybe I'll finish it next week, because I think this is this part of it is important, this reading. So pure non-duality, which actually I've just been talking about as an experience. So I've sort of done it backwards, but nothing's ever going wrong because the Spirit's in charge of what I talk about and when. So last night, usually the night before I do my talk, I do this talk in the morning here, that I'm given, I just sit and get quiet and ask, and I got to go to Gary's book and find something there. I opened it up and I read a few different sections, and this is what resonated with, yes, read this. And the reason why I'm reading this now, it's on page 39 of the Disappearance of the Universe, and it was such an important part for me. This part, reading the whole book was really helpful, but it seemed that the area where they described the 4 stages of duality to non-duality were a really big key for my mind. And I read this section many, many times, and I had a massive resistance to it to start with, but I kept going back to it. And I've done a whole talk on this, how we're moving and how our mind moves in and out of the 4 stages from pure duality to pure non-duality. And we will move. And even Jesus did. So we're no different to him. And so this, I want to talk today about the pure non-duality, which is just God. Pure non-duality focuses on there's only God. So halfway down page 39, if you want to look it up and read it for yourself after you've listened to me. I probably won't finish this, but I'll finish it next week if I'm guided to. So I may just need to do this as a read in. So just a suggestion. I'm calling, the Spirit's calling others to read this as well. So Arten is now saying, Jesus was neither judgmental nor a reactionary, and our brief outline of non-dualism should have given you the idea that he would not be willing to compromise on this logic. If nothing is outside of your mind, then to judge it is to grant it power over you. And to not judge it is to withdraw its power over you. This certainly contributes to the end of suffering, but our brother Jesus didn't stop there. So he's summarising, Arten there is summarising non-duality, non-dualism, but now he's going to go in and talk about pure non-dualism. Pure non-dualism recognises the authority of God so completely that it relinquishes all psychological attachment to anything that is not God. This attitude also recognises what some people have called the like from like principle. which says that anything coming from God must be like him. Pure non-dualism is not willing to compromise on this principle either. Rather, it says that anything that comes from God must be exactly like him. God could not create anything that is not perfect, or else he wouldn't be perfect. The logic of that is flawless. If God is perfect and eternal, then by definition, anything he creates would also have to be perfect and eternal. All right, so this is a really clear guidance of what pure non-duality is, and that's why when we read in these beautiful lessons, I am not a body, I am free, I am as God created me, I am created perfect, innocent, guiltless, not one tiny speck of dust is on my mind or in my mind. It is pure. My mind is made pure. It is the pure space of love, of joy, of divine grace. Any words, it's holy, it's used whatever words you like. That's how we are created. And we have that mind right now. It never went away. We've just got it covered up by blocks. And we're going to undo those. Those blocks are going to easily fall away by the Holy Spirit showing us where those blocks are and showing us how crazy those blocks are. So Shell's just saying, I couldn't put the book down once I started reading it. Thanks for sharing this from Gary Renard's book today. So can you share what the box on the very next page says, please? Right, okay. This Shell, okay, that's good. Thank you, Shell. Humility is the way, not a false humility that says you are inadequate, but a real humility that says God is your only source. That's beautiful. And this is what we really have. That's why that whole opening and surrendering, this is this humility. God is my only source. That's it. And so God is our source, is our only source, because that's the truth. That's the only, we are in a mind that is like a virus. It's not true. It's like a virus is just something that's corrupting the truth. If you've got a really clear, beautiful computer that works really well and then you get a virus, it's corrupting the source of truth. But that beautiful, clear computer system can seem to be touched by the virus, can seem to not work. But once you get the virus remover, it's back to its source. But that hasn't been affected by the virus. It can seem to. So yeah, God is my source. Literally, that's it. And you really have to laugh that we think that we have to try and control everything and sort out our lives. If we only knew, if I only knew how easy it is to just ask for guidance and be guided in every moment by the truth that knows my best interest. Because I've got no idea what my best interest is. He says that early in the lessons. You just don't know. He says, write out all the things that you want and why you want them and what you think will happen. And this is a really good thing to do if you're stuck. Go and write out that. You got to laugh. You do. You really do. You got to laugh at how we try to figure stuff out for ourselves. it would feel so foreign to me to try and make a decision on my own now. And the thing is, any decision, I couldn't even try to make a decision for Cate, for this entity, like what I used to be in my mind, like a personal self. That went years ago, a personal self. Every decision is based on the Holy Spirit's guidance. And no matter what happens, it's always, if I got a new car, say for example, someone gifted me a car, or I was guided to something, or however it came in, and the car appeared, it would be for me to get to help others. It's got nothing to do with me. Everything is given over for being helpful. I couldn't even imagine wanting a car for any other reason. Everything is repurposed for God. Everything's for God, however that is, and that deepens and deepens. So here we go. We've just talked about the logic of this is flawless. If God is perfect and eternal, then by my definition, anything he creates would also be perfect and eternal. We have to really get in touch with this eternal, perfect mind that we're in. We really, it's very important to touch those lessons. I am not a body, I am free, I am as God created me, I am the love of God, I am nothing but the love of God. So Cheryl's just writing, when I actually got that, I did not kill God. And that guilt was my source of suffering. I forgave myself believing that lie, I'm bad and guilty. Yeah, it seems that that's what you're saying, Shirley, is that that seems to be a lot of what's at the bottom of the ego, that we think we killed God, and that's the source of the guilt. Yeah, and somehow we have this guilt that, and she's just saying that, she's gone past that. Yes, how arrogant of the ego. Yeah, that's really good to recognise. And what Shirley's saying here is that we have to look at what the ego is saying. It's really important. This is a really big. We're not going to get to freedom without uncovering all the things that are holding freedom away from us. So Shirley's just saying such freedom, yeah. So she's already free in her mind when she's realised what the ego has told her is false. While we believe what the ego says, we're going to suffer. So on our journey, we have to see it. And what this teaching of Jesus is, and in A Course in Miracles, it's really giving us it's telling us how gorgeous we are, how beautiful, how holy, how magnificent. I mean, we've got no idea how amazing we are, how God sees us, this perfect mind, sun, whatever you want to call it. It's these words, just this amazing. We are just so holy. We have the mind of God. We're just so magnificent, so gorgeous, and we're lifted up. Our minds are lifted up by the love of God, the song of God, angels' voices, the tunes, the harmonies. And what that song is the most deepest song of gratitude. That's what the song is. It's gratitude. If you could hear this song of gratitude from God to you, you would weep. That's why I weep, because literally God is singing to me of how much he loves me and how grateful he is. And this is the song. This is the ancient song that we're getting a glimpse of at times, but as we remove more blocks, we get further and further and deeper into this love. And on my journey, I've had to bring up so much darkness to the light. And at times, especially in recent years, a few years ago, I brought up this massive darkness which didn't seem personal. And I was guided that it was actually like the world's darkness. Now, that was really unusual for me. But I have heard some people speak about these groups that when their mind's clear, they bring up actually the world's darkness, like this one ego mind darkness. But that was it. It wasn't a personal darkness. Usually it felt very personal, but I guess there's really no personal, but it felt it. Okay, so welcome Regina. Shell's just written that Regina's joined. She's on next. So if you, I really encourage you to listen to Regina Dornacres. If you're listening to this on my YouTube channel, really recommend going to the awakeningtogether.org channel and listening to Regina Dornacres' her talks. She's a beautiful teacher, and also she's got some wonderful books out. And I love listening to Regina. I don't get to listen to her very often. I did when I first, a few years ago, but you will find we need to hear this message in many different ways from many different teachers. You might have a favourite teacher, but listen around and you will, because what happens is they'll use different words, different ways, but if you're really open, give it over to the Holy Spirit. You just need to be committed 100%. Give everything over. And Regina is very committed, like myself, and I'm sure there's others there on the Awakening Together that are just as committed. And this is where we're encouraged. These are the lights, and I had lights shining for me, showing me that this commitment works, and this love and this giving over and this surrendering works. And now I'm very, very grateful to be a light for others as well, and to let my light shine, just to say that this this undoing works. Whatever you need to do, there's a process, there's someone there to help you. The Spirit will guide you to listen to whoever you need to listen to read. Just open your mind up and say, okay, Holy Spirit, you be in charge of my undoing. We can't be in charge of the undoing because we don't even know how to do it, but we need to allow. And I think for me, the biggest sign I've ever had when I first started many years ago, I asked the Holy Spirit, I got guided to make a little video out on the riverbank. And I said to the Holy Spirit, give me a sign that this is what you want me to do. And as I looked back on the video, all the clouds behind my head went into two rays of light streaming from my head right up into the sky. It was the most incredible thing to watch back, and I literally cried when I saw that. I just said, that is the biggest sign that I'm meant to keep doing this. At the time, I hadn't had the awakening, and I was quite fearful of doing videos. So it was just incredible. I thought, how could those clouds have gone into two streams of light? And it's because it was a signal for me. And whenever I get doubt, maybe I'm not mean, maybe I've said enough. How many recordings do I need to make? The Spirit says, no, not yet. It's not time to finish yet. Still got more to say. This is for me too. Always for me. It always deepens as I share it. That's why to teach is to learn. So yeah, go teach, go demonstrate and go teach. It's beautiful. And this is a deepening for me. So I might share some more next week on pure non-duality. Let me read. I've got a minute. Let me read another prayer. Oh, I just love these prayers. And I got, so let me just get one in. This is lesson 356. Father, you promised you would never fail to answer any call your son might make to you. Interesting how I just opened this up and we're all talking. There seems to be this calling to God, is this definite thing that the Spirit wants me to be talking about. It does not matter where he is, what seems to be his problem, or what he believes he has become. He is your son, and you will answer him. The miracle reflects your love, and thus it answers him. Your name replaces every thought of sin, and who is sinless cannot suffer pain. Your name gives answer to your son, because to call your name is but to call his own. So actually, when we're calling out for God, we're calling out to ourself, the biggest self, which is who we are. So we're joining with ourself. All right, I'll give a blessing. I love you, I bless you, and I honour you. And thank you for joining today. And I'll just give the microphone back. Whoops, hang on, what have I done? I've clicked off it. There we go. Have a wonderful day and blessings. Love you. Love you all. Love you so much.